welcome. StreamYard changed their countdown music. Threw me off for a minute. Happy to see you here, whether you're live or on replay crew. Welcome to our new subscribers. Happy to see so many of you here over from the Recovery Addicts podcast last week. I'm going to go ahead and run the intro and then bring Dr. Susan on and we will get started. If I can find the right button. There we go. Hi, I'm Nicole, and as you have probably guessed, I have ADHD. I live and breathe all things ADHD in my personal, family, and professional life. I have a background in psychology and special education, and I've gained a lot of knowledge over the years about ADHD, what it really is, how it touches every aspect of your life and the life of your child, as well as a wealth of information and strategies for living with ADHD and parenting kids with ADHD. In this community, we share stories, we learn together, and we support each other as we navigate all things ADHD. Welcome. Hello, Susan.
Hello, Nicole.
How are we doing this week?
Oh, I had a lot of headaches this week, literally.
Oh, gosh, dang it. Weather changes.
No, it's bright, sunny, and in the 60s here.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, no.
See what I got? I got to show you something. You ready?
Yeah, let me see. What is it? I can't see. Is it a goat?
It's a screaming goat.
It's a scream. I thought of you this weekend. I went out to dinner Friday night and the host served wild goat wine. Isn't that adorable?
Okay. I'm trying to figure out wild goat wine. I'm hoping that
we talk about, wild goats. You're wandering around trying, it's like herding cats.
Yes. I'm just hoping that wild goat is just like the cute name of a winery.
Yes.
Wine is somehow made from wild goats.
Positive association.
It's fine. I'll be the wild goat. I'm good with it.
Yes.
Scream.
It was a positive.
They scream and they faint.
So today we're going to wrap up the odds and ends of our executive functioning. I thought of a couple of items, and you said you had some questions for us to answer.
Yes, hold on one second. My computer's doing weird things. Okay. Siri started playing a song called Scream by Michael and Janet Jackson, and my phone started ringing at the same time. Chaos.
I don't know. That seems pretty relevant to me.
All right. So, I have a couple of questions that came from our audience. So, let me pull that up first. Where did it go? Okay, the first one came from Cynthia Gott 3112, and it was on our organization video, and she asked, can you give advice on how to organize and downsize for things like moving? Strategies for ADHDers on when we have to do big organization tasks.
Well, absolutely. That actually, I have an easy answer to that.
Great.
Because I used it for my big moves cross country, and it all has to do with organization.
Right, which we suck at.
So I'll tell you the strategies that I recommend. The first is a notebook, and you can do it on the computer or you can do it in an actual physical notebook. Depends on what strategy you like to use. And the first and most important thing is to organize your boxes. So I still have them, even though the last time I moved was coming up on 17 years ago, maybe longer. Oh my God. I can't remember.
Time to declutter the boxes, Susan.
What?
that it's time to declutter the boxes.
Oh, I still have boxes I've never unpacked from that move, I have to tell you. But this is what you do. You keep your notebook, number your boxes. In your notebook, write down everything that's in the box. So box number 1, kitchen. So you write kitchen cabinet and you put down dishes, pots, whatever it is. Box number 2, your silverware, your Tupperware. You write it in your notebook or on your Google Doc, right? And your boxes are all numbered to match. So then when you come across box number 27, after your move, you simply open your notebook and it will tell you everything that's in that box. The other thing you do is on your box, you write what room it goes in. So when the movers get to your house, they put the boxes in the correct room. So I have 5 bedrooms in my house. And when we moved, it says Aviva's bedroom, Natan's bedroom, master bedroom, extra bedroom. And the boxes, the movers, not me, put the boxes in the correct rooms. Living room.
So the last time we moved, the way I did that organization is I went to Walmart and I got as many different colors and shapes of Post-it notes as I could find.
Right.
And then I created a key with a empty file folder, and I put each Post-it down and I labeled each room with what I knew the Post-it went to, right? Because like the people who are helping us move into our house, they don't know which bedroom is which, and so I just put, as I was packing, taped whatever Post-it was to the side of the box, and then we went to the house ahead of time and stuck the right Post-it on each door of each room. So then when people were moving in, they just matched the Post-it to the room.
And I think that's a great adjunct for labeling by color. But I really recommend the notebook or Google Doc.
Here's the problem.
The contents of the boxes. And I see our guest.
I have this same comment. Right. I start out being super organized, and I stop caring halfway through because packing to move sucks. And taking the step to like put the thing in the box and then write it down and put the thing in the box and write it down, like feels like it doubles how much time you're taking to pack. So I totally get
the issue there is you can summarize. You can say kitchen cabinets. You don't have to list every plate or every spoon. You can simply say kitchen cabinets.
Yeah.
You can say my daughter's dresser. You don't have to say every article of clothing. So you can summarize, but you still have to put that summary because I'm telling you, this makes a life or death difference in unpacking your house when you get to the other side.
Yes.
Right? So when you get to box 137 and you haven't written down, your son's winter clothes, and that's all you have to write, my son's winter clothes. Mm-hmm. And when you come across box 137 in the new house, if you can't look up son's winter clothes, or you get to the house and you're like, oh my God, we had a blizzard. Where are my son's winter clothes? And then you can look it up and say, oh, it's box 137. Then when you find box 137, the sigh of relief is amazing. Now, procrastination is a different issue entirely.
Yes.
That's not an organizational issue.
Right. This is a planning problem.
Right. Okay. So that's a different question. I completely get that, and I'll address it in a minute. So the key thing is an organizational plan. Have your notebook with you. Get a Sharpie. Just number every box. You don't have to write what's on the side of the box, just the room it goes to, or a colored sticky note, if that's how you've planned it, like Nicole did. But you keeping that summary, son's winter clothes, kitchen cabinets, basement junk. I don't care what you write on it, but make it say something is going to save you 1 billion hours when you get to the new house. So that's the organizational issue. Now, the procrastination issue, I'm not sure what you're procrastinating about. If you have to
I
pack because
totally
you have
do,
to
because
move,
right.
writing
But the
stuff down
problem
in
is
a
you
notebook.
start packing, and usually when you're moving, especially if you own your home or whatever, there's a lot of other things going on at the same time as packing, right? You're looking for a new house, figuring out closing on a lot. Like there's a lot of things going on, and so you start, you start 2 weeks ahead, and you're like, oh, I'm doing great, I'm doing 5 boxes a day, whatever. And then it gets to, oh, the moving truck is coming tomorrow morning, and now I'm just throwing things in boxes, right?
Right.
So
There's always going to be a few miscellaneous.
yeah, I
There's
think
no question.
this sometimes is unavoidable, and just doing the best you can to continue to label, even if it's like random stuff from XYZ room.
And that's enough. If what you
Yeah,
write is this came out of the living room,
right,
that tells you something. You're not going to look in there for your son's winter clothes
right,
because it came out of the living room. So if all you wrote on there is miscellaneous stuff from living room, that's still helpful because
right.
you're
It's
going to
still
label that
information.
box for your living room. It'll get put in the living room at the new house.
Yeah,
It still helps to write it down
right,
because you're not going to be randomly tearing open that box to look for your son's winter clothes.
right.
So I'm okay with that
Yeah,
because you still labeled it and wrote it down.
yeah. You just got to give yourself some information
Exactly.
so that you don't make yourself crazy when you're unpacking. The other question that went along with that was, if you're downsizing. And that's, I think, another question too, because it's less about the organization and more about, I feel, to me, it's like a prioritization issue. Like, what do I keep and what do I not keep, right? Because sometimes making those decisions can be really tricky for us because everything feels like has the same level of importance, right? And then we end up with a lot of stuff in our house that we aren't using. And this is not only an ADHD problem, right? This is a problem. There's a reason why there's professional organizers and decluttering books, and why KonMari went viral back in the day,
But
people
it
trying to
fizzled
decide
out
what to
because it
keep,
wasn't as useful as you'd
because
hope.
it's not very sustainable. But it was a new idea on how
Right.
to address this problem that we all have of, we just collect things and we don't.
Have you ever watched one of those hoarder TV shows?
Yes, anytime I feel like my house is getting out of control, I start binging that show, and it makes me just want to throw
So
away
my
everything in my
husband is a
house.
little bit of a hoarder. And it's very funny because he really hates to throw things out. I might have a use for this cardboard box in 6 years,
Yes. And then
So
the one time that like they actually do find the
it
use for that
totally
thing, it
reinforces all the
justifies
bad
everything.
behavior. Right. But one of the things I want to refer to is the way they help is as they're clearing out a room, they set up, 3 tarps or blankets or something. One says keep, one says sell, one says donate, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, and then there's always garbage bags.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that's really important when you have to downsize is to have this preset organizing schema. So you put down a blanket or a box that's labeled keep, one that's labeled sell, one that's labeled donate, and you always have a garbage bag, right? 4 things preset before you start downsizing.
Yeah.
And what that does for you is it forces you to make decisions because you have to put the item you're looking at into one of these 4 areas. You can't just put it back on the pile.
Well, and I think that's the thing that made kind of the whole KonMari thing go, is that it gave people a process for that, right? You pick up every object. Does it bring me joy? Right.
But I'm not asking, does it bring you joy?
No, I know. But we're
I'm
asking
asking you to
different
make
questions,
a decision.
but it's still a process, right? It's
Right.
giving the process a structure, an order, right? Pick up the thing, decide which pile it goes into, and just having that additional structure to it. I mean, it's similar to, the flow chart we went over a couple weeks
Yes,
ago with,
exactly.
helping my son clean his room.
Exactly.
Pick up the thing. Is it mine? Does it go in this room? And oftentimes, when I'm doing this process, the things that I'm keeping, we make the decision, does it go in this room or does it go in another room of the house? And I don't then leave the room and go put that thing in that house, because then I'm gone. I'm out of the room. I'm going to get distracted by something. I stick it in a box or a laundry basket. And then later we can tackle the putting things away from the laundry basket. But it's just adding that, like, yes, it's a keep, but it doesn't go in here, helps with that process as well. We just had to go through this whole thing. So my grandmother was like, could have been on the show Hoarders. And she had early onset Alzheimer's in her late 50s. It came on. She was a spitfire of a lady. She was a journalist. She was a single divorced mom of 3 in the 50s in Utah, which is not, a
Traditional.
place, yes, where that was very common. And she wrote for the society page of the Salt Lake Tribune, and she kept every single newspaper for her entire career. So 30 something years of newspapers stacked in her hallway.
Wow.
There was only one room of her house when we moved her out and in to live with us when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. It was rough. And a lot of it was just, we were chucking stuff and then throwing other things in boxes. And not all of those boxes ever got sorted through. So recently, my parents' house had gotten, my dad is not that much of a hoarder, but has tendencies. Like, he has his areas, his garage and things like that, where it's like scary. But some things started taking over more of the house. Paperwork, as he retired, things from his office were making his way, and a whole section of their house was becoming largely unusable. So
wow.
My sister came into town for a weekend, and we had a professional organizer with us, and we went after that house, and it was quite a process to go through that sorting. And I'm looking at 3 bins of like photos and memorabilia stuff that I took to go through and get digitized and organized in a way that it's usable instead of just being in random boxes. And man, we found some treasures, because my grandmother kept everything, and some of the stuff she kept is cool. We've got pictures from the newspaper of her with
very cool,
with Richard Nixon, and like she was good friends with like O.C. Tanner and some
tremendous
cool people in it.
memories.
So it's the problem is if we let it get to that point, right? We have now all these memories that we are trying to figure out. Like, we don't know who some of these people are, what years things were, things like that. So these processes of labeling things and taking the time to sort through and downsize and all of that, it makes a difference.
It does. And for the typical person, we're not at a hoarder level. We're just cluttered.
Yes.
And by keeping some of these ideas in mind, if you get your kid to clean their room once every couple of weeks, you're going to keep it under control.
Right.
But you still have to go through this process of, once in a while, a bigger clear out. And certainly, you brought up the issue of moving. That, of course, is a different question.
And it's a natural time to do that kind of clear out. But, we've been in our house almost 12 years now, and we got some stuff accumulated because children have, when we moved into this house, my oldest was 5. The next one was 2. and my third child wasn't born. So we got
Yeah. So we've been
now
in this
they
house,
are teenagers, and my
yeah,
youngest
we've
is
been in this house
9.
19 years.
Yeah, you
And I
accumulate some
still have
things.
some boxes that are of keepsakes and other things we've never unpacked, but we're just keeping because we
Yeah.
want to keep them.
Yep.
But the really important thing is all the clutter that we accumulate because we don't manage.
Well, the
stuff.
doom piles that you end up just like
Right.
sticking in a box and shoving in the corner so that
Right.
it's not in your field of view, and then
But for the families,
ADHD brain out of sight,
yes.
out of mind, and
But for the families we talk to, what's really important is how we teach our kids how to manage the stuff they have in their rooms, how we keep our common living spaces, and that sort of thing is, again, a question of there's a place for everything and you put things back in the place they come from. In my house, I'm the sort of keeper of the spaces. And I say to my family all the time when they come to me and say, "Where is the?" And I say, if you didn't put it back in the place it's supposed to go, I can't know where it is.
Right.
Because you put it back, it's supposed to go in this cabinet. And if you haven't put it back in that cabinet, I can't, I don't have X-ray vision. I can't look through all the cabinets in the house and figure out what other strange place you may have left it. I can only know where it is if everybody puts things back, even in our kitchen.
Or if I put it back,
right? If
put
I
it
put
somewhere,
it back
if I put it somewhere, because it's not always in the place where it belongs, but
so
I know where I put it.
by designating places where things go and everyone having a commitment to putting those things back in the same place every time,
You make
then
it
our
sound
house can
so
stay organized.
easy, Susan.
I live with multiple family members with ADHD.
I know
I'm
it's
the
hard.
one who has to enforce it. Right.
Okay, but that's the problem, is because I'm the one who's supposed to enforce it.
Right.
And
I'm not saying it's easy.
Struggle.
I'm not saying it's easy. But so what I did for my daughter growing up to help with this, she has a 6-drawer dresser. How hard is it to find her pajamas? But literally, she'd have to go through all 6 drawers.
Right.
So we labeled them. When she was about 7 or 8, we literally put labels: underwear and socks, long sleeve shirts, short sleeve shirts, pajamas, pants, sweaters. We put labels on the drawers. How hard is that? So then every time we wanted her to put away her own laundry, she could put them back in the correct drawers because we labeled them. It's not hard. And by doing that,
I've done that, and I've done the labeling, and they still just shove them in the drawers.
No, because then you can't find anything.
I know, but they'd still do that. That's what I'm saying.
But I'm just saying that there are things we can do in the environment, just like you have that flow chart, just like we post their morning routines in the bathroom. We post a kitchen routine or chore list in the kitchen. By having multimodal information about organizational skills, we can teach our kids over time how to help manage themselves.
Systems are
it's the more we give them
crucial.
More information, written information, verbal information, kinesthetic, by helping them practice with our help, hands over hand, the easier it's going to be for them to learn these strategies themselves. So I want to bring up one of the topics I wanted to bring up that sort of relates to this is body doubling. We've mentioned it briefly, but I actually have a 22-year-old client right now who uses our hour every week to body double. And body doubling means that a person who's struggling, usually often with ADHD, sometimes other issues, needs somebody else with them to pace them through a task they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that for her can be cleaning her room, doing her laundry, or even doing her homework.
Mm-hmm.
And what it means is, because she has difficulty, and these will be terms familiar to our listeners because we've used them over the last 2 months, is whether it's task initiation, she has
Mm-hmm.
trouble getting started on a task on her own, or whether it's difficulty with prioritizing, knowing which task to start first,
Mm-hmm.
or whether it's one of these organizational tools and she needs help getting her materials organized, and I can help talk her through it. She needs somebody with her to
Mm-hmm.
get one of these tasks accomplished, whether
Yes.
it's laundry, homework, cleaning her room, or another task. I've helped her work on her resume. I've helped her do job searches and so on. All tasks she's capable of doing,
Right.
but finds it easier to do when I am in the Zoom room with her.
Yes.
And so body doubling is something that many neurodivergent people find hugely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And there are actually all kinds of Zoom meetings and other kinds of spaces
Well, we
set up.
do that on the channel here. I have gotten, we used to do it every Monday, do a body doubling / co-working stream where I would just do my work and chat a little bit, and we would set goals at the beginning of the hour, what were things we needed to get done during
Perfect.
that hour, set a visual timer, do our work, check back in at the end of the hour for a quick 10-minute break. And that is definitely something that
So
I'm
I
planning
see
to
in our
bring back
comments
regularly.
that somebody who's watching us is actually at work right now.
Yes, I know a lot of our viewers use YouTube streamers as body doubles. I mean, I do it with a lot of the court watching channels that I like to watch, right?
Exactly.
Just having that thing on in the background does a couple of things. It helps me to, have a body double, but also it keeps the squirrels entertained so that the rest of my brain can work.
People use music, they set music, or even I like to put on a movie that I know by heart so I don't actually have to watch it, and I just hear it as noise in the background while I'm doing something.
That's one of the main reasons I used to do all my studying at the library in college instead of at my house. Like when I went there, it was a multifaceted solution for me, right? Like this is the place where we study. So it had that environment.
But
like
that's not body doubling.
I know, I'm not done.
I apologize.
I said it was multifaceted. It was this place where I would go and I would study. And so it had, that that's another tip I was going to talk about, is setting up, it's designated spaces for designated tasks. But also when you go to the library, there was the downstairs area that had the computers, and that's kind of where people would chat. And then upstairs had the tables where everyone was studying. So being in that, okay, I'm at the table next to this person, I'm going to keep working as long as they are. And when they take a break, I'll take a break. Right. So
that's sort of non-conscious body doubling. The other person
I knew I was body doubling. They didn't know they were doing
right. Very funny. But so I wanted to introduce body doubling as an executive functioning strategy.
Yeah, it's a great tool
because it addresses multiple of the organizational and executive functioning strategies that we've talked about. So did you have another question?
A lot of the questions are just kind of asking for different tips about different things. So I kind of made a list of tips that I thought were
throw
the
out
most
another
important.
one, or else I have another one. So what do you
All right. So I've got ways to deal with time management. So visual schedules are really helpful, not just for kids. When I was doing them for my little kids, we would use little, almost like almost like PECs pictures, right? Little pictures of all the different things that we would do in a day. And they had little Velcro on the back. And every day we would put all the little pictures in a row of what we were going to do that day to help him see kind of the flow of our day. And then setting timers, particularly timers like this. This is the time timer. It's my favorite one. We have them in a few different sizes, but I have one of these in just about every room of my house. And the reason why it's great is because when you set the timer, it goes like this. And as the time goes down, the pie chunk gets smaller. So it makes time concrete and visual, and it helps our brains to understand better how the time is passing, because that is the problem with this time blindness, time management issue, is that our brains don't process time in the same way. So making it visual and concrete, and so that we can help our brains understand how the time is passing, how much time we have to do something, how much time we've spent on something, and not either get, it's the, oh, this is taking forever, it's been 7 hours when it's only been 5 minutes, or also the, wait, it's been an hour, it only feels like it's been 5 minutes, and now I'm running late.
I think two really important things to add to that. I think it's really important to estimate how much time you think a task is going to take before you start it, and write it down. So you look at whether it's your homework, if you're a teen or college student, or if it's an adult task, a work-related task or a home-related task, you should keep a list of, or you can keep a list of how long you think a task is going to take. And then time yourself. Even if you just look at the clock and it's 1:15 and you think, your vacuuming is going to take 10 minutes and it takes you 30. Or you say this,
or the opposite, because
but no. I want you, that's not what I'm talking about. I want you to say, how long do you think this task is going to take?
Right.
And it takes 15. You think it's going to take 15. I'm going to talk about why I'm saying this in a minute. And if you're a student, you think your math work is going to take 20 minutes and it takes you 40. Your vacuuming, you think it'll take 15, it takes you 30. What I want you to do is realize, why are you underestimating the amount of time it takes you to do your work? The point isn't that you're underestimating. The point is that you don't have a good grasp of your time limits. And if you do this for a week and you realize you're consistently underestimating, then the following week, I want you to change it up. I want you to say, oh, last week it took me 30 minutes or 40 minutes to do each of these tasks. So I'm going to block off now the time it took me last week. I'm going to block off 30 minutes this time for my vacuuming. I'm going to block off 40 minutes to do my math. And you're going to do it for another week. And this time you're going to be more accurate, I'm going to guess, in how long it takes you to do things. Do you see?
Yeah.
And by doing this exercise, what we're doing is helping adjust your ability to judge how much time it takes to do your tasks.
Right.
And over time, by continuing to guesstimate and then see your actual time, and then time yourself, set your timer for 30 minutes, do your task, we're readjusting your internal clock. So this is not just a question of guessing. This is actually an exercise to readjust your internal clock to how much time it takes you to do things. So, for example, my husband sucks at guessing how long it's going to take him to cook dinner. So at 5:45, he starts cooking and says dinner will be ready at 6:30, and it's not ready till after 7. And my daughter and I get angry because she likes to go to bed at 8 o'clock, but she can't if she hasn't had dinner till 7:15. And so we're constantly having to get him to start sooner at cooking dinner because he thinks he can do it in 30 to 40 minutes, and it always takes him over an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So we're having to remind him at 5 o'clock to start dinner preparation so we actually can have dinner before 6:30. It's not a question of you're always wrong, but doing an exercise with this 1 week of timing yourself, guessing, and then the next week giving yourself that longer period of time until your clock has readjusted. It's a way to help you learn what your actual body clock is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then, on the other side of things, right? So a lot of problems with task initiation can also stem from this time blindness, right?
Yes.
We don't know how long things are going to take, and we're bad at estimating on either side, under or over. And a lot of times, there's this task and we're like, oh my gosh, it's going to take me forever to do this. It feels like it takes forever because it's boring and it's not a dopamine task, right? And so we put it off, we don't do the thing. I just did this with my youngest the other day. So when he comes home from school, before he can have screen time or his free time, after a little snack break and whatnot, he has 2 chores he has to do. One is a lesson on his Beast Academy math, and which is a great program, which we should talk about at some point when we're talking about gifted kids. He does one lesson on Beast Academy, and he has to practice his guitar. To practice his guitar, he just has to do the 2 current songs that he's working on and 3 review songs. It really only takes him about 10 minutes to practice guitar, and about maximum 20 minutes to do a Beast Academy lesson, usually 10 to 15 minutes. So they're not long tasks, but in his brain, they are going to take forever. He has a really hard time starting. So I started last week saying, okay, I'm going to time you on your guitar. If it takes more than 10 minutes, you can stop at 10 minutes. Right? So we're going to set this timer, and then we're going to time you and see how long it takes you to do the Beast Academy lesson, and just see. Because in his mind, he's like, this is going to take an hour. I'm never going to get to play Minecraft. I'm never going to get to do anything because I'm going to be spending all afternoon doing my chores, when they are really, between the 2 of them, no more than 30 minutes max, right? So sometimes that is it's an issue for me sometimes when I'm like, have some boring work things to do. I'm like, oh, it's going to take me 2 hours to input this information. I don't want to do it. What other tasks can I do that aren't going to take so long? But then, sometimes we'll put off doing things around the house, or things like, making a phone call.
And this is our procrastination issue.
Yes.
And then we end up with 2 problems.
Right.
We have our procrastination, and we still have to do the task we were avoiding.
And then when I actually do the task, it really only took me like 10 minutes. And I'm like, I just put that thing off for 8 hours to avoid doing 10 minutes of work.
So there are 2 ways we can handle this. So I know for my daughter, she gets very anxious. And one of the issues I wanted to bring up was executive functioning and anxiety. So this is a nice segue. She gets anxious about starting a task. So what we do is we set a timer. If we're anxious about starting a task, we set a timer and we say, we'll start the task in 20 minutes. We talk about giving warnings to school children. We're going to transition in 10 minutes. We're going to transition in 5 minutes. But some of our kids and a lot of adults need longer than that to get into the right mindset. So we say 20 minutes or even 30 minutes, and we set a timer and say, we're going to have our break time for 20 minutes, or we're going to have 20 minutes to finish what we're doing. And when this alarm goes off in 20 minutes, we're going to start the task, whatever it is. In this case, start his practice, right? I love your idea of actually timing it, because that fits exactly with what I was saying. So we get a more realistic sense of how long the task actually takes us. But I want to deal with the procrastination issue, the task initiation. So we set a timer to when it's supposed to start, and then we do it. when we can, right? I know that's always an issue.
And then we do it. That's the step.
Yes, that's the step. But
That's the
then
problem.
we need support around the doing it. So we provide ourselves with some support around that. We set ourselves up. So it's not that at 10 minutes, like when we have to leave the house, a lot of people have difficulty with leaving the house. So we have to leave at 1:00 to get to an appointment at 1:30. That doesn't mean that at 1:00 we first go to the bathroom, get our shoes on, find our coat. We actually have to be in the car at 1:00. So we have to say to ourselves or our children, so in order to leave the house at 10:00, you see, we're planning our initiation.
It's that buffer
means
time.
At 10 of is when we go pee, get our shoes on and get our coat. So we have to do our planning. Here's the executive functioning piece. If we're leaving the house at 1:00, we actually have to get started on our task initiation at 10 of. So
then leave ourselves a 5-minute buffer for, oh, I got in the car. Oh, I forgot my phone. Oh, I forgot.
Well, that's, yesterday my husband went to go skiing, got an hour and a half to the ski resort and realized that he forgot his bag with his ski pants, gloves, and balaclava. He had his skis, but nothing else. So he had to turn around and come home again. So he left this morning.
I usually remember right about as I'm driving out of the neighborhood. So
no.
have to
He
turn
made
around
it
for about
all
5
the
minutes.
way to the ski resort without any of his equipment. He had his skis. That was it. So yes, I completely understand that. And it was sitting right there on the landing next to the door.
It's always gathered up. Here's all the things I need.
To the car.
Get in the car.
Forgot
my
to
wallet.
make the second trip to get the rest of his equipment. So yeah, that stuff happens. That's just normal. That's not just ADHD, but it's normal.
But the frequency of it might be ADHD.
Right. So here we are. You have your son who has to do his 10 minutes of guitar practice and 20 minutes of whatever else it is. So if he has to start at 3:00 after he gets home from school at 2:30, what you have to do is pre-plan with him. If he has to start at 3:00 because he's home at 2:30, let's sit and break down with him what has to happen for him to be ready at 2:00 so that you can build in alarms along the way so he can do what we might call his pre-task initiation.
Right.
So what are those steps for him, Nicole? Because he's not going to jump right up and run over to the guitar. Does he have to go to the bathroom? Does he have everything else, all his music and his guitar ready every single day, or is there stuff he has to organize before he can start
very little. We've got a music room that's set up so that there's very few steps between.
Does he always have to go to the bathroom
and
first?
Get out?
Does he have to eat a snack first?
Not always. That's the problem. Is he comes in, he, says hi to his dog, takes a little bit of a break from being at school. We give him some time to kind of just be in the house, say hi to everybody, report on his day, have a minute of break before we get started. We do need to be more consistent about the time that we start doing his chores. And
thank you.
There are
when does he get his first reminder that this is coming up?
About 25 minutes after he gets home.
I think you probably need to give him a reminder at least 10 minutes earlier.
Okay. Give
him a little more, this is your 15-minute reminder. Then you have your 10-minute reminder. I think what we don't always realize is maybe this is enough of a reminder for you, Nicole, maybe not, but he might need more reminder.
Yeah. And I think part of the problem is that there is some inconsistency in our day-to-day schedule based on what other activities if we have to drive a kid to somewhere and that kind of stuff. So that is definitely something we're working on, is getting a little bit more of a consistent routine for him, or making it more clear to him what days we are home and doing chores and stuff and what days we are going out. So
do you always know those things in the morning, or does you really not know till he comes home from school?
We don't talk about it in the morning usually. Sometimes he'll ask, like, he knows that on Wednesdays his brother has a saxophone lesson. He likes going to the saxophone lesson because the teacher has a bubblegum machine in his front yard. So he plans and brings quarters from his piggy bank so that he can get bubblegum. So he does ask when he knows it's Wednesday.
Well, I'm just asking you,
Yeah.
how early can you give him an alert? This is a day when you're going to have your practice.
Yeah.
Right after school.
And that's what I need to get our posted family calendar. We have gotten out of the habit of keeping that updated for him.
I think those things are necessary. So you see what we're talking about. Families need to do a lot more pre-planning if we want our kids to have a smoother transition.
Yes.
So I want to tie this to the anxiety question just a little bit, because I do think the more pre-planning we do, the less anxiety our kids have about starting this stuff, and the less procrastination we have. Procrastination is all about anxiety. Even though we may not hear our kids say that, what underlies all procrastination is anxiety. It is about not wanting to start a task because we're scared of it, we're fearful of the outcome, we're not sure we can do it, we don't want to do it, we fight against it because we don't know if we're good at it. Those are all aspects of anxiety.
Okay, but for me, most procrastination is more about the lack of dopamine in the task. There are anxiety things, but there is I do not want to do this thing. I'm going to put it off because I know it's going to be boring.
That might be the excuse you give yourself, but that's not why the majority of people procrastinate.
Maybe not the majority of people, but ADHDers.
Nope.
We don't like to do things because they're boring.
Nope. It really isn't if you look at the research. If you look at the research, people procrastinate because they're anxious about the task in some way. So you might be anxious that it's going to be boring, but the majority of people procrastinate because they're anxious about the task. Now, you might be anxious that it's going to be boring or that you won't be successful at it. So are we
separating out then procrastination from just struggling with task initiation?
That could be.
And that not task initiation struggle itself may not necessarily count as procrastination?
Correct.
Okay.
Procrastination is when you knowingly put off a task. Task initiation is, someone is saying Instagram is my procrastination. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Instagram is the tool that you're using to procrastinate.
Exactly. Instagram is not the reason you procrastinate. You go to Instagram to have something to do during your procrastination time. You have chosen to procrastinate for some social emotional reason, and then you go to Instagram to avoid thinking about what's making you anxious about this task.
Well, I think it's important. It says busted. I think it's important to also maybe separate procrastination, because I think a lot of times maybe why ADHDers use the word procrastination a lot is because that's what we were told we were doing when we were struggling with something like task initiation.
I think that's really
getting hyper focused on another task and losing track of time, or those things that are reasons why we didn't get a task done. And rather than it being labeled what it is, which was an executive function issue, we get told from in school, from parents,
From
whatever, quit
uneducated
procrastinating. You're
educators.
procrastinating. You need to stop procrastinating. And so I think maybe it's a good thing to identify that what you're saying, that what we have labeled as procrastination maybe isn't actually procrastination, that procrastination is kind of intentionally not doing a task because there's this anxiety piece in it. And maybe that's the definition that we need to focus on.
That's a very good point. And procrastination can be one aspect of a task initiation problem, but it's actually just one aspect.
Right.
And so procrastination is about anxiety about the task. It can be, it's not just in people with ADHD.
Right.
A lot of neurotypical people have procrastination issues because of anxiety. People with anxiety disorders and no other neurodivergence deal with procrastination that impacts their lives enormously. But procrastination has to do with delaying or avoiding a task because you're uncertain, afraid, or something about the outcome.
I like that focus on maybe the intentionality of it being the separation between procrastination and just not having gotten a task done, right?
Correct.
That sometimes we don't get tasks done for other reasons, and it doesn't mean that we're procrastinating. The procrastination has this intentional aspect to it.
And so, like the person posting in our comments, we use our time. I mean, there are some really OCD people who like clean their homes instead of doing their work.
Sure,
I wish I was that sort of person. I tend to go to YouTube. We have Instagram.
Yeah, distraction is I used to do more of like useful tasks until now there's just so many quicker, faster ways to distract myself.
Right.
That are much less functional.
But what I wanted to bring up is this anxiety about our tasks is what procrastination is about. And so where executive functioning skills come in is by helping us, if we run down our list of flexible thinking, self-monitoring, planning and prioritization, all these other skills we're talking about, it's ways to help us move forward in our tasks and not be afraid of completing them because we feel in control of our behavior instead of resorting to procrastination.
Sorry, my oldest son has to register for his senior year today, and he's texting me questions. So
okay.
Had to respond to him.
Task initiation issues, body doubling is a really great way to overcome procrastination because you're accountable. You have somebody there with you, even if it's unknown to them, such as going to the library, Nicole. I thought that was great. That was adorable.
I went to college on a very small campus, and I got into that habit freshman year because until you had 30 credits, you were required to live in the dorms. I went to BYU Hawaii, very small town on the opposite side of the island. No bus, like we could only take the bus or hitchhike to get places. We didn't have cars. And so there was not a lot of places where like the dorms were packed tight. And in Hawaii, the majority of places have just slat windows. We don't have we're not sealed in with AC. So we would share our slat window with the two rooms on either side of us.
Love it.
So there's so I started going to the library to get my I need a break.
A little breath of fresh air, right?
And I was like, well, I might as well study. And I got in that habit. So then later on, when I was living in a house of 10 girls, we had kind of a similar thing. If I needed to get some stuff done, I had a desk in my bedroom, but there was a lot of distractions. So yeah, I would just go to the library.
Good habits. So all these executive functioning skills we've been talking about are all what you may think of as good habits to get things accomplished and overcome problems such as, losing all your materials, feeling disorganized, having procrastination issues, which all, I just want to say, ramp up anxiety.
Right.
So by putting these skills in place, you get your anxiety under control.
So I just, a couple of quick thoughts before we wrap up. We talked about having a system. We talked about, we have talked before about focusing on small goals at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. If we try and revamp our entire lives and all our systems and all our habits and everything all at once, we will fail. And then it will just end up on that list of, see, I can't do this, because we have this history of failure, right? So setting small, manageable goals, habit stacking and routines we've talked about before. One thing I wanted to take a couple minutes on is different ways that you can get support. So we've talked about body doubling. Also, sometimes just having an accountability partner, a friend that you can just text in the morning and be like, I need to do this thing today. Text me in an hour and make sure I've done it. Someone that you can trust that way. And then also coaches. So Susan, you want to talk a little bit about what you do as far as coaching and what coaching might look like?
Yep. And once again, it didn't allow me to post my links.
I've got the links in the video description, but I will post them again for you.
Yeah, I just tried to post them.
I'll post them in the chat, but they are in the description of the video if you are on Replay Crew.
Okay. I am a coach for parents, teens, and young adults who struggle with communication, organization skills, and launching to the next stage of their lives, whether that's high school, college, or into adulthood. I also, my mind just went blank there for a second. I don't know why I thought of this. I offer a free consult to anyone who's listening who would like to be able to just talk to me about anything you've heard here and want to talk about how to get help with that. A coach, as opposed to a therapist, works on skills and strategies that help you move forward in your life. And what's really important here is why we talk about your feelings and your family. I really focus on making changes on a day-to-day basis on what's really going to help you reach your own personal goals.
So here, Koala says, how about not so young adults?
I work with adults through age 30.
Okay. So when you think about, I think about coaches, like sports coaches, right? Like what's the purpose of a coach, right? They're there to teach you skills, to give you things to work on, to help you set goals and work through those goals, and how, they're more of a teacher, whereas a therapist is going to spend more time talking about how you feel about the process and what kinds of things might be affecting how you're functioning. They're going to focus. I mean, there is a kind of a crossover in some areas between a therapist and a coach, but a coach is not going to sit and talk to you about, what habits you got
your childhood,
your mom, and about your other mental health issues, right? They're not there to diagnose. They are there to help you set goals where you are and get to where you want to be and help you through that process. For us in our clinic, when we are doing coaching, it is hand in hand with the therapist, right? The therapist is going to say, okay, you need to work on these goals. Here's a person who's going to help you work on the goals. So there's different roles in the way that works. So
exactly.
I think it would be great sometime as we're talking about future topics to maybe have you do a little coaching with me and help me figure some things out to show people what the process looks like. And I could sure use some help figuring some things out. So I think it would be good for people to see sort of what that process can look like. Coaching is very individualized to your life and what you need at the time. Yeah, it's a great tool if you're looking for some additional support. So I encourage you to reach out to Susan if you're looking at that right now. I am not currently taking coaching clients, so I'm going to refer you over to Susan for that.
And if you'd like to find, if you're an adult with ADHD,
yeah,
and you'd like help finding a coach for yourself,
yes,
please reach out to me or to Nicole.
Yeah, we have some other coaches that we have worked with or that we know of, or people that can help you to find a coach.
Schedule an appointment with me, and I'd be happy to refer you to an appropriate resource.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, this was great. I think we brought up a lot of good points that we hadn't been able to bring up in previous meetings, and I'm looking forward to our next series on different diagnoses, and we'll be back soon. See you next Tuesday.
Yeah. If you have questions or topics that you would like for us to address in a future live, please feel free to send them to either Susan or myself, or just leave comments in the videos. I do check those frequently. So if you've got a question and there's something you want us to address as we work on planning our next couple months of topics, please let us know. And if you're here on Replay Crew, thanks for being here. Make sure to do those YouTube things so we are 6 people away from 300, which is awesome. So thank you all for being here. I'll run the outro and we will see y'all next week. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This video is not a substitute for counseling, psychotherapy, medical, or mental health care. The information and advice shared here should not be used in place of any form of diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Information provided here does not involve diagnosis or treatment of medical or mental or psychological disorders. If you feel the need for professional support, please seek a local professional in your area. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only.